Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show for January 24th, 2018. Not going to drop it. Not going to drop it. We got a good show for you today. After many technical woes and frustrations, we got Jared Walton, our hardware editor, with us. So you know we're going to go deep into some hardware.
Computers.
Yes, this is going to be an actual PC Gamer Show in which we probably don't mention Nintendo and talk about hardware for once. So.
You just mentioned Nintendo, James.
Oh, shit. There we go. How you doing, Jared?
Doing good.
Taking
it back to Washington.
Heck yeah. And listeners, if you guys need us to bump Jared's sound up a bit, just let me know. And if our sound is busted, also let me know. I'm seeing some people in the chat saying it's broken, but that might be from the pre-show. Cool. Also with me, Wes Fenlon.
Hello. Nothing gets the adrenaline pumping like audio issues 10 minutes before a podcast, right?
You have no idea. The show, I love doing the show, but it is so stressful every single week. I don't know. It feels like a leaky ship, and I'm the only person down there plugging the hole. As soon as I plug one hole, something else, busts open. I gotta reach over with a toe and plug it in.
Our podcast it's basically like some kind of jalopy made from other vehicles. Like we're just bolting old technology together in a way that somehow works and is never ideal.
It's not ideal. I'm gonna bump Jared's sound real quick, but before we do that, Wes, why don't you start telling us what you've been playing lately?
Oh, what I've been playing. So I'm not allowed to mention Nintendo games, according to James just a minute ago. Unfortunately, that's been mostly what I've been playing. I've been cleaning up some stuff from last year. But I do have a game I can talk about a little later on. We're going to do a segment on Iconoclasts, which is a new kind of Metroidvania, long in the making, kind of 2D action game. Really beautiful pixel art. Feels really good to play. So I'll go more into that later. Other than that, pretty much the only PC games I've been playing is Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah, I saw you log on.
Picked my campaign back up with my friends. We were kind of scattered over the holiday break, and we actually hung out in person, my friends on the East Coast of the U.S., so we did not play Divinity at that point. But we've picked it back up. We're in the final act of the game now, I think. We're in Arx, which is kind of the big city. And we, throughout kind of our whole campaign, we've been totally willing to reload saves when something goes awry, something happens that pretty much, it's not always like, okay, we're going to save, see how this works out, and then plan to reload. But there have been plenty of cases where we're like, we don't love how that happened. Let's go back a bit. And yesterday, one of my friends decided after we'd finished kind of cleaning out this dungeon that we had been in to turn a wheel that says Doomsday Device on it.
Good call.
Which is like a culmination of a long story arc in the game where one of the sort of factions has stored up all this death fog, which is just containers of... It's kind of like... what's the fire in Game of Thrones?
Valyrian?
The really like messed up fire that will just burn on anything.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I know what you're talking
I'm
about.
blanking on the name, but the death fog will kill any living creature, anything that's not undead in the game. And they've been building up a giant storehouse of it under this city to kill all of their enemies with. And he decided to just turn that crank without us saying anything. And then he was like, well, I didn't know it was going to kill everybody. I'm like, it's called the Doomsday Device. And we've been following this plot thread the whole game. Like, how could you not guess what was going to happen? So we reloaded that and didn't kill everyone in the town. So that set us back a little bit, but it also let us buy new armor from traders in the city and talk to people, which we couldn't have done if they were all dead. So yeah, that was my evening last night. And I've been playing a little Downwell recently, actually.
Did the Downwell developers move to Nintendo kind of that game back into your mind?
It was unrelated to that. It was actually Friday. I was kind of in the office late because I was going out to see a movie, and I had just like an hour or so to kill and was just kind of scrolling through my Steam library, and I was like, you know what, Downwell, I never played enough of that game.
That's good.
And so I just played like an hour of Downwell, and it's a really fun roguelike. Like you really get into a rhythm in a match where you kind of get the feel for like when you should be landing on enemies, when you should be dodging them. You get that kind of that sensation going where you're like, okay, I know I need to save my ammo for certain situations. Like you can kind of read the enemies really quickly once you tune into the game and be like, okay, that's when I shoot, that's when I jump on, that's when that's space I dodge, that kind of thing. So it's a really just like viscerally satisfying game, I think.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and it's got some really cool visual palettes you can lay over.
Yeah, I would switch between them every time I unlocked one.
They're very satisfying.
Go like red to green to blue to Game Boy.
Yeah, the Game Boy one's my favorite, even though it probably makes things a lot harder than they need to be. Cool. Yeah, I'm curious to know how Mario's downward arc is going to change after the developer joins Nintendo. I'm sure it's going to be very nice.
Is Mario going to get gun boots?
Maybe.
It's probably about time, right?
Yeah. You know what?
Mario's feet are not deadly enough yet.
I said I was not going to mention Nintendo this episode. We brought Jared on to like ward off the console, spirits, but here we are again anyway.
Jared, what have you been playing?
Real quick before we get to Jared, I want to take like a brief tech intermission because people are still telling me they can't hear Jared. So I'll cut this out of the audio.
Well, Jared hasn't said much.
Yeah, Jared, can you just prove to us whether we can hear you?
I'm ready to talk. And if you guys want to go off on hardware for a while, how much you hate cryptocurrencies, like just let me know.
I think he's very faint, and I'm worried about blasting out our headphones. But I'm gonna bump him up again real quick. Yeah, Tyler says Jared's just quiet. You can hear him, so I'll give him a bit more juice. One sec.
Got to juice up Jared.
Juice up Jared.
Yeah,
Overclocking Jared. I'll try to stay out of frame of the camera.
There you go. Better turn up the fan speed while you do that.
Is it getting too loud for your headphones, Wes?
Jared, can you talk to us now?
Sure.
I think we're
I
fine.
haven't been playing any games. Like that's the sad thing. I haven't played a single game for like a month other than benchmarking purposes.
But isn't that fun, Jared?
Like it ruins games, honestly. Like I look at my Steam library and it's like, oh, you played, Rise of the Tomb Raider for 45 hours. I'm like, yeah, about 2 of that was playing. The rest was benchmarking. Same C.
Sorry again. Chat, is he better now or still super quiet? He's good now. Apollo's telling me he's good.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if that was in response to what I asked. I'll just wait for another flow. I can hear Jared still a bit quiet, but we can hear now. I'll give him a little more juice then. A little bit more. A little bit.
We're gonna redline Jared.
Jared, what's the most hyper you've ever been?
Most hyper?
Like did you have an energy drink period or anything like that?
I never did energy drinks so much, but I
just
used
cocaine.
A lot of Dr. Pepper Mountain Dew. Yeah.
Just the cocaine years.
The cocaine years.
Yeah, my cocaine habit. I've tried to kick that. No, I did a computer science major in college, and I had one class that was it was just called software engineering, but it was like a class where it was a 3-credit-hour class, and I spent probably 30 to 40 hours per week on just that single class.
Oof.
And so the final project was due, and I think I pulled like probably at least 2 all-nighters a week for a month. And so I remember one day having like 2 liters of Mountain Dew and Dr. Pepper and just sucking those down.
Damn.
And the next morning, I'm just like jittery as anything. I'm like, I'm so tired and I can't go to sleep, and I just felt terrible. So I stopped drinking soft drinks for the most part.
That's good for you.
Yeah,
well, and when you're in your 40s, you start realizing like the things you did in your 20s, they're not really viable options anymore.
Chat is saying Jared sounds he's like he's in the same room with us now. So
Yay.
Good. If it's too hard to hear him, again, just ping me in the chat and I'll bump him up again. So thanks for being patient. The remote guest stuff is it's a bit hard to get working sometimes. Cool. All right. Did you guys talk about what Jared's been playing?
He hasn't been playing much. He's just been drinking,
Benchmarks.
just drinking 2 liters of Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew and benchmarks. That's the life, I tell you. That's the life we promote here at PCGamer.com. Cool. I guess I'll talk about what I've been playing, which is also not a lot. I'll say I'm still playing Danganronpa, and those games are so fucking long. Way longer again. That's my biggest complaint is that...
You're on the first one, right?
Yeah.
First visual novel of 3 they've done?
Yes, I think there's 3 mainline Danganronpa games, and I think I'm on the final case, and I'm like 20 hours in or something like that. And that's like on the shorter end of things, I guess, because I read very quickly, and I honestly skip a lot of text because there will be sequences where it's like, Makoto, we need to go to the laundry room and talk to so-and-so, and then we need to come back here and talk again. Okay. And then it's like you get some narration from the perspective of the character. I went downstairs to the laundry room, dragging my feet behind me as hurriedly as I could, just like some awful nonsense, like over descriptive stuff. And then I opened the door to the laundry room and I walked inside and I found the thing I wanted. After I found the thing I wanted, I went back upstairs to talk to my friend as he had requested. Then it'll be like a flashback to the moment he asked you what to do next, and it's
brevity is not their strong suit.
It's not the strongest suit, but I love all the nonsense and the stupid, the just over the top trials and murder scenes and twists and turns that game has. It's absurd, and I'm discovering more about like the nature of the school
and yourself
and myself and the true intent of like everything going on and the motivations behind a lot of like the characters there. And it's not grand, perfect, amazing, life-changing storytelling, but it is just some bubblegum, chew it, good time fun. I love it a lot.
So do you think you're going to go for the second one?
I think I'll save it for I definitely want to play the rest because I hear they get better at the trial phases. Like they get more. Right now they're
more interactive.
Yeah, it's like you'll play a bunch of mini games and have to make a few guesses, which are spelled out pretty like in just bold print for you. So solving the mysteries is very rarely a challenge. It's just more of like paying attention to when the text is yellow instead of white. But yeah, I'm having fun. I think I'll save the next one for like a big long rainy weekend and knock out a couple cases. The problem is it's not really. It's either is there just not a lot happening in games right now, or am I just going through a phase? Is what I'm asking you.
Probably
psychologist gamer Wes.
You're probably going through a phase.
You think so?
I mean, because I haven't known you to only enjoy playing brand new stuff.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to have come out that week for you to want to play it. So if there's nothing you are feeling like you want to play, then it's probably just you, James.
So just back off.
It's probably
just
just
for a bit
inside your heart.
Yeah, just nothing's grabbing me.
You probably shouldn't do that because then you'll get fired.
Yeah.
What's
the problem?
What good are you if you're not
not playing games? I really want to play. There's a lot of games I want to play. It's just, I don't know. Thinking about diving back into Divinity is so daunting after having been away for a couple of months, and Prey and a whole bunch of games that I want to finish. Danganronpa is just I can play a chapter and halfway pay attention and just kind of lay back with you can play with one mouse, one hand, pretty easily.
When I go through bouts of just like not wanting to sit at my desk when I go home.
Yeah.
I found a good solution was to pick a game that I liked playing with a controller, like Metal Gear Solid 5, for example, or The Witcher. I liked playing it either keyboard and mouse or with controller. And then just like, depending on how you have your PC set up, just run it to, a TV and just lay in bed or lay on the couch if you have like a Steam streaming setup or something, and just play that PC game while horizontal. Sometimes you just need to lay down, It's okay. It's okay.
You do. Truth is, I just want to play Nintendo games all the time. But
shut up, James. Come on.
We already talked about that.
Come on.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but we have been playing a few things that we have not mentioned quite yet. Some fresh new releases and a couple betas, which we're going to get to. But Wes, you've been playing one game in particular. It came out just like yesterday, I think.
Iconoclasts, yeah.
Can you talk to us about?
Are we going to move straight into that?
We're going to move right into it.
All right, yeah. So I've only played about an hour. I started it up last night. Iconoclast came out, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. Maybe it was just yesterday. It is a Metroidvania, I believe. I think that's how it is. It is structured.
Yeah.
So kind of a map where you will unlock new routes through the world with new movement abilities and do some backtracking and stuff. It's made by the developer of, I want to say Noitu Love. Is that the name of his previous game? It's Joaquin Sandberg, I think.
Doesn't ring a bell to me.
He worked on this game for about 10 years, I think. We actually have a feature on the site that Austin wrote about the making of this game. And as soon as you boot it up, you can kind of... It's one of those games where you can just tell how much love went into the detail of it, because it's a pixel art game, but with just like really nice, really smooth animations, a lot of little character animation and world animation that isn't strictly necessary, but makes it just feel really alive. So it's kind of like Owlboy, where as soon as you start playing it, you can just feel kind of the love and the attention that went into it, and you go, okay, I know why this took a really long time, because it's just every little detail. They wanted to get it right. They wanted to just put that extra layer of polish all over the game. And the setting is pretty interesting. It's set in this world, and again, I'm not very far into it, so I haven't gotten many layers into what's going on. But it's in some kind of world where there's a lot of divine punishment happening through some kind of, I don't know what the god is in this world, but the sort of ruling class in the world forbid basically mechanics from operating outside of their like totalitarian rules as to who is allowed to repair things. Yeah. And you play as this girl named Robin, whose dad was a mechanic and has died, and like left you and trusted you with his big wrench that you use to repair things. Cool. But as these sort of like Big Brother-y style, or like Shinra style, like cops kind of come through the towns, and if they find people illegally using tools, they will haul you away, and then people's like houses will get destroyed by some kind of divine punishment. So it's all very ambiguous at the start. You kind of don't know, like, okay, is there a real deity that's doing this stuff, or is this some person, somewhere high up? They don't layer it all on right at the beginning. So it's kind of a cool mystery at first, but it's like a weird kind of cheeky totalitarian thing that feels like significant for the characters, but it's not just like super bleak. The whole game is very cheery and colorful.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't get the impression,
but it has some definite like religious persecution overtones going on. When you hit a little cutscene, the story moment. Other than that, you're just like running around with your wrench and your kind of blaster pistol and like shooting enemies, and then certain enemies you have to use the wrench to hit them and do like a counter, so they'll like charge at you and you can counter them and then shoot them, or do like a jump attack on them. So even at the very beginning, you have a few different moves you can chain together. Cool. And use the wrench for movement. Like there'll be little hook points that you can jump on and kind of swing on it with the wrench. And I'm just getting started with it, but it's really fun so far.
Yeah, those are the like. There's two major things about Metroidvania games that I think really matter to me. One is like the world building through and how that's communicated through level design. Quietly, and two, just the basic the basic act of moving through the levels, because you probably will have to quite a few times, being joyful. Does moving around feel good?
It feels really good, yeah. Especially with a controller. I played it a little bit with keyboard, right? And I didn't bother to like rebind the keys, which would have helped, because by default you're using like the arrow keys to move, so it's kind of the reverse of what you would use with a controller. But especially with a controller, it feels really great. I think a lot of that comes down to the animation, and it has like really kind of snappy, both snappy controls and snappy like attack animations and sound effects and stuff. So when you fire your blaster, it's like has really good kick and it comes out really fast. And the swing attack on the wrench is really satisfying. That kind of stuff. So it's just a really well-tuned game for sure. Cool. I would put it as the way it plays and as kind of a broader like genre study, much closer to like Cave Story than Hollow Knight. Right. Hollow Knight is much more about, I think, the world and the way they cared more about the world than they did like the exact path you took through it or your platforming in it necessarily. This feels almost, at least at the phase that I'm in, like a kind of classic level-based game. Gotcha. Like the opening 30-40 minutes you spend in this one area that's kind of like your hometown kind of setting, and then after that you kind of get kicked out and end up somewhere else that is at this point disconnected from that other area. And I'm guessing eventually there will be a way to kind of thread the whole world together. Okay. Because it has kind of that classic Super Metroid style like grid map when you open the pause menu. But right now those are two totally separate areas, which is kind of different than your typical Metroidvania setup where you expect to like start in one place and then gradually work your way out to every corner of the map. This one feels a little bit closer to kind of a Super Nintendo action game where you have different areas that you're exploring, and then when you finish, you're done with them. So I'm guessing it will eventually connect together, like I said, but right now it seems like it's a bit more self-contained, but you still have like little pathways you'll find that you can't access yet, and so you go, okay, I know I'm gonna have to come back here later at some point.
With some new ability.
Exactly.
Right on. I mean, that's exciting to me. I'm into this trend of small developers just putting out good Metroidvanias in place of Nintendo.
It really feels like, without doing anything crazy elaborate, that it has really great production value. Like it just the feel of the game, the music, it feels like the kind of game that doesn't come along too often with that degree of charm and polish on it. So I'm really enjoying it so far.
Well, that's exciting. I'm excited. Maybe this drought I'm thinking is happening to me is only because I have not opened my eyes.
I think it would be a good panacea for you, James.
All right. We also played something like just about an hour ago, and I think the beta only opened up just this morning for Rare's new game, Sea of Thieves. There's a closed beta running for like 2 or 3 days.
Jared was clearly looking for an excuse to play the game yesterday. He was like, "Is there any need to benchmark it?" And we were like, "Well, probably not yet."
Boo, boo.
It's a pretty.
I'm under contract to do benchmarks, don't you know?
He is. Yeah, we hopped in for. Wow. Well, I don't know how much we actually played versus tried to get together.
Hour and a half, maybe.
Hour and a half. So we got a small taste, but a lot happened in that small time frame which we played. But every time a new Microsoft game comes out on the PC, we have to revisit the Windows Store.
You got mad.
I got so fucking mad. The Windows Store. Well, Sea of Thieves is a game in which you play as pirates in an open world on a ship and look for treasure.
It's like a good time. Sea of Thieves or something that you're on.
With your buds. And the key part is you're doing it online with your buds. Ideally with your buds. This is a game I would want to play with my buds.
I mean, you did.
I did. And so you would think that you would want to release this game on a platform that enables you to get together with your buds fairly easily.
You would think that.
But navigating, well, first the Microsoft Store, which is just, it's like I don't know, it's like the island of lost apps, just kind of hiding in the back of your computer.
The beta did have like a weird extra step where you had to like validate it through a web browser or something. Yeah. that won't be a problem for the full game.
No.
But there were still many other issues that we encountered along the way.
Yeah, and first of all, just getting in a damn lobby with each other was a nightmare. It's hard to pinpoint exactly how things were going wrong or why. I still don't quite understand what's going on, but Tyler opened up a lobby and he hopped on a ship, and I think you can have 4 people total for this one ship we were on.
Yep. I think that's the max for the game for your crews. Yeah.
And after sending out, I'm paraphrasing, hundreds of invites, which is probably not true, but maybe dozens.
I was watching the invites go on and seeing you guys argue, so yeah, there was definitely
our Slack was a mess.
Yeah, our Slack chat is just like, I invited you. Did you see it? Okay, I sent you another one. Did you? No,
didn't see it. And we eventually found out that you have to have the Xbox app open, or should have it open. There's a separate Xbox app,
right,
alongside the game. You have to have open. And because this uses the Xbox friend list and all that stuff, and even there, I was not seeing invites pop up in my feed at all, like in my messages or anything. And beyond that, the only way I could get into a game was wait for you specifically, Wes, to get into a lobby, and then I don't know, 30 seconds would pass, and once I clicked on your name and looked at your profile, I could see a join Wes option.
For some reason, you couldn't join on Tyler, or
I couldn't join on Tyler. I couldn't join on Chris. I don't think anyone could join on me. No, you joined on me once.
Yeah,
we had our own two-person ship going for a bit. And when we finally all got into a lobby together, I don't know what happened. Like, you pressed go or something, and then all of a sudden we hear Tyler go, "Oh no!" and then he dips out, and
Tyler got disconnected, and then it filled in some Rex 1974 or something joins our party.
Yeah.
Then he just pukes on someone immediately in game, drinks a bunch of grog and vomits.
Yeah.
And okay, thanks.
Beyond that, I mean, this. I don't know if this is going to be in the final version of the game or not. We could not join a game in progress, so we had to be, as far as we could tell, unless there's some kind of person you talk to, because a lot of the menus are expressed through vendors and such, and places on your ship. We couldn't figure out how to invite anyone once we were in a game, so that was very frustrating because we'd all have to back out and get back in.
I'm guessing all of this is much easier on the Xbox,
the actual Xbox.
I would hope.
Yeah,
I hope it's easier on the Xbox.
And I don't know, it feels like, I don't know why it is the way it is, but I suspect it's because they want to keep it cross-play, and this is sort of the last punch of the, I don't know, cross-platform sort of push for Xbox and Windows PC.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's just, it feels like we're anchored to an old system on a system that has very clear examples of other services doing it right. And
yeah, I mean,
not even great. Steam's party joining stuff isn't even top tier, but it works.
The shame is crossplay is such a great consumer friendly idea. The fact okay, you can not only potentially play with someone on a different platform than you, but that you buy this game once and you own it for multiple systems.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's awesome.
So cool.
It's just built on a framework on PC that is just bad, and is showing no signs of getting better. And I think Jared has run into even more problems than we have with this. When he's tried to benchmark games, the Windows Store will lock you out right after a few different systems or something.
So I think it was Forza 7 at one point was you could only run it on up to 5 CPUs per 48-hour period or something like that. Maybe it was 24-hour period. So I was trying to benchmark Forza 7. It was kind of a mess anyway. And it detected a change of CPU, even if all you did was went into the BIOS and disabled hyper-threading or disabled 2 cores or whatever. So you couldn't get around it that way. It would just be oh, well, you've got a different core count, so this is a new PC. It didn't detect graphics cards as being a different PC, interestingly enough, just CPU changes. And of course, the other great thing with Forza 7 was it was 100 gigabytes almost. And being the Windows Store, there is literally no way to transport your 100 gigabytes from one PC to the next PC. So I downloaded it 3 times in the process of testing, and I'm on Comcast, so I have a 1 terabyte per month data cap. I almost never come close to that, but that month between Shadow of War and Forza 7, I was within 10 gigabytes of my data cap. I was like, oh, sweet.
That's rough.
So I'm really excited for net neutrality because, you know, that will definitely not make data caps worse, right?
The death of net neutrality, you mean? Yeah.
Hey, my home state, I guess my Montana is the first state to, I don't know the details, but basically has put in legislation that will ignore the FCC's decision. And,
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Maybe
Google
the
it.
FCC will take them to court.
Yeah. Who knows? But I'm happy to see that is the start of a trend that maybe more states will.
I hope so. Yeah.
After. Yeah, it was a miserable experience, and I think maybe made more miserable because when we got into the game, it was a good time. Like,
for the most part, I don't know. I'm still kind of skeptical on it. So we actually did play Sea of Thieves once we got through all this bullshit.
Yes.
It definitely has the potential of like a fun sandbox where you kind of make of it. Your party makes or breaks the game. You know, like how goofy you guys are, how much fun you have, like just trying to sail your ship around together, that kind of thing. But structurally, it felt like really like bare bones.
Yeah.
In terms of getting missions, and then like I was kind of unsatisfied with, okay, we get this quest to like go dig up some treasure, and then we take it back to our ship, but there's very little like, you know, because it's such a big sandbox, I guess there's not really much dialogue like pointing you in any direction. I don't want like hand holding necessarily. I just want some sort of substance built around these missions, like a little cutscene, a little, you know, somebody telling you like, oh, this is the famous treasure of blah blah blah, and this is why you're going to get it, and it's just like really just kind of quiet and empty in that regard.
Weirdly quiet and empty.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes to the game's benefit, I think. But yeah, I think we had more fun once we stopped worrying about, you know, performing the quests the game gives you. Or at least that we had to go out and find, and just started acting on what we thought would be interesting, and just, you know, well, that island in the distance looks cool. I think the defining moment for us was we had just finished that first quest, and it was like, okay, we dug something up. It's trying to teach us things, so it's not really, I didn't really worry too much about that one. I was like, okay, it's teaching treasure. We got treasure. We're going back on the ship. But then in the distance, we spotted a very large storm. I should say that these the water looks amazing. The horizon is when the way the sun rises and like spills light over the water, or when it sets, it's some really nice vistas.
The art is on point, absolutely.
Very nice.
Nighttime has this kind of great blue purple glow to it,
and it's like pretty dark too. So you have to actually use your lantern, and things become very difficult to see, as we found out, because as we headed toward the island in the center, the eye of this big swirling storm where you can see lightning arcing down and stuff, night descended upon us, and I was in the crow's nest. I think, I don't know, what you were steering, weren't you?
I was steering.
You were steering.
I had the helm.
I don't know. Tyler was fucking around. Who fucking knows?
And for that big lightning storm, nothing bad will happen.
Yeah.
That was our plan.
But when lightning struck, it carved this really nice silhouette of this like kind of eerie looking island. We saw like the lights of a ship in the distance, and we were like, are those other people? We didn't quite know how it instanced us with other players, or if we were, you know, because it's a beta, you know, what kind of, you know, what they were testing. But we got to the island, threw down the anchor, could not see anything. Like it was so hard to see, which was really like this really atmospheric, cool sensation. And I decided, okay, guys, I'm just gonna dive in and scout ahead and see if I can find a way. onto the island. And
well, all three of you jumped in the water immediately.
I was like, I'll go, and then Tyler's like, boop boop, and then Chris follows.
So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll stay with the ship.
Someone
then.
should stay with the boat. And so Tyler and I are swimming around trying to find a way to get on this island, and we're talking about like whether or not we can be dashed upon the rocks by the waves, which I don't think you can, which is a bummer. Rare, if you're listening, do that.
Are there sharks?
There are sharks, and that's how Chris died.
Eaten by a shark.
We came around the corner, and I hopped onto land, and we hear Chris go, "Oh God, something bit me. I don't really know." And then he's like, "I'm dead. I'm on a ghost ship. Why am I on a ghost ship?" Tyler and I got onto the island, and meanwhile, Wes is like, probably just, you were doubting us or saying, "What the hell?" Or I don't know what the hell was going on. But then we hear the ship. I think you report to us the ship started sinking.
Yeah. Well, the sea was really choppy because we were in the middle of this storm, and we had anchored it and put the sails up, but just some really big waves, I guess. And so I'm kind of on the deck, and it starts just shifting more and more and more to the side. I'm like, this isn't correcting. This isn't just a one wave. And so then it completely flipped and like tossed me into the water, and then I like looked down and just saw first I like surfaced and saw the hull upside down, and I was like, oh, maybe it'll just float upside down, and then it just drops below. And I kind of swam underwater and just watched the ship just sink down to the seafloor and then disappear, which is
a really cool visual too when you're underwater, just seeing this big thing. So it's worth noting you can have planks in your inventory and like run to the bottom of the ship and like try and block up the holes, and then after that you have to take a bucket and like carry water out and throw it over the from downstairs.
That doesn't work if your ship just tips over though.
and your teammates aren't there to help you. So sorry, Wes. I should say that now.
I don't think we could have handled that situation with a full crew anyway.
And well, flashback to Tyler and I and Chris's dead body floating in the waves. On the island, we run into a player, Morningstar, and so the ship in the distance is populated by people. Stupidly, well, I don't know. I take some swings immediately instead of trying to talk to Morningstar, and he jumps off into the water and swims back to his ship, probably talking to his buddies and letting them know what's going on. And then with Wes, did you die from that?
No, I lived, and I actually saw them trying to sail away.
Right.
And jumped on their ship and then tried to hijack it, and that didn't go well.
So Tyler and I are like, let's just go get their ship because ours is gone. So we start swimming in the water. They see, I don't know if they saw me coming, but they definitely saw Tyler coming. He was behind me by about, 50 yards. And so I'm swimming around like the side of their ship. I managed to get onto a ladder. They see Tyler and start shooting at him in the water. Sharks are also on his tail. He's having a bad day. And they take out Tyler, or the sharks get him. I don't really know. But they don't know I'm there, still on the side of their ship. And I wait a bit, hang on a ladder. I'm all by myself.
Let Tyler die.
Yeah, let Tyler die. He served his purpose.
Took one for the team.
Distracted. Yeah. And after enough time, I run up onto the deck and stab a guy in the back and kill him, and then like I run down to the lower deck and there's a guy down there and he's like drinking beer, and I poke him in the belly. It's a big round pirate.
What's he doing down there just drinking beer?
No, I kill him. And these are players, by the way. And then eventually Morningstar, the guy we ran onto the island, he comes down to the deck and he's got his pistol loaded, and like I don't have any pistol ammo, so I'm hiding behind stuff. These are muzzle loaded pistols too, so they take a bit to reload. Every time he takes a shot, I run out, try and stab him real quick, and then hide again. He eventually takes me out, but it was just not before I get him down to like a sliver of health, and it was like a really cool instance of like what that game can be.
I thought Wes was on the ship too. No,
I went on before either of them, and I got taken out pretty fast.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Killed there.
There were like three of them active at that point, and they took me out, and so then they let their guards down, and that's what let James.
Yeah. It was a really cool, like, I don't know. I felt like I was being a real pirate, sneaking on and taking them. But it was a cool instance, and like it made me want to go like successfully pull that off, and have more pirate shenanigans like that. I worry about how much fun that can be after a long time.
Yeah, I was kind of unclear with the stakes of the game and like the significance those actions will feel like they have once you've played a bit of it, because when when our ship sank, there's basically just like a kind of a beacon you can go to and just like respawn on another random island where you just get a brand new ship.
Yeah.
And there was at one point you and I were exploring an island and our ship just like disappeared.
Yeah.
And we just had to like go to this beacon thing, and then it respawned us on a different island with a new ship. So it's kind of, it's almost like if they're so... It's a tough thing to balance because obviously they can sink pretty easily. Somebody can steal your ship. You could die and your ship could be halfway across the world. And like, those are all situations where if your ship didn't respawn, it would really suck. But it also made it feel really insignificant. Like, oh, the ship sank, just go to the thing where you spawn back at the other island. And so I'm not clear on how much like investment you're going to have in any activity that you take in this game when that is the structure of it.
Yeah, it's hard to know like what will be at stake. I know that like if you're carrying treasure, theoretically like another ship could try and board you and steal it, or sink you and steal it as it sinks. And like what treasure nets you and like the rewards behind that, the mystery of, you know, treasure hunting is like, it's still a big question mark for me.
Yeah, and some of that is we just haven't played enough.
You guys play Sid Meier's Pirates?
I did. I really liked that game.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, like, a multiplayer Pirates would be great.
It feels like, I mean, it has the spirit of that game blown up to a big first-person, you know, almost battle royale feeling.
But very simplified in your actions, right? Like, there's no economics really in this game.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
I mean, there was a lot going on in Sid Meier's Pirates, right?
Yes. I mean, yeah. But as far as just the seeing another ship on the wide open sea and like asking yourself if it's worth engaging with, it really nails the feeling of just being, you know, a crew of jerks out on your own looking to, you know, get yourselves fed and drunk.
Stab first and ask questions later.
Yeah.
I was really wondering, just like, where are the NPCs? Where are the animals? Where is the atmosphere? You know, because graphically the atmosphere is fantastic. Like, it really conveys the setting really well, and the animation of the pirates is really fun and goofy, and it looks great. But on the islands that we would start on, there would be like kind of 2 or 3 silent NPCs serving as like shopkeepers, and you know, there's not even like really much dialogue with them or anything. And maybe that's still just a result of it being a beta, I don't know, but I just wanted like something like a Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, there's a tavern with characters hanging out, or, you know, Monkey Island, like they had, you know, just like the vagrants sitting around drinking grog and like telling jokes and stuff.
I mean, when we first suggested like sailing to the Eye of the Storm and going to the creepy island at night, I was hoping that there would be we would be rewarded for that, and that on the island we would encounter like a ghost pirate, and he's like, "Arr, you found me. Here's me quest for you. Otherwise, your souls are mine." That's my pirate impression. And there was nothing like that. There was a couple skeletons that spawned and weren't tough to take down, and we ran into those players and had fun with that. But it was just an island, and I don't know if like that stuff is being held back for the main game, and like there are like thematically strong and islands, and there are characters that play a part in like a larger sort of narrative you can pick up on as you play, or that it's really hard to say from this beta and how much time we spent with it.
A lot of questions for sure. A lot of questions,
about this game. But I think it will be at least for a short time a very cool thing to play with buds.
The framework for it, just the actions and how dedicated they are to like making you do these things in sort of first person with your hands, you know, like put the board in your hands and then walk up to the ship and hit the button to like nail it up so that you can then take the bucket and, you know, clear out the water. That's a really cool way of forcing you to sort of do that in a air quotes realistic way.
Yeah, and it's more naturalistic than I think I thought it would be, because we struggled for a bit to find out like how to do anything, or like how to pick up a quest, or like where. I mean, the interface is one thing, but a lot of it was just it's object-based interactions, or like the maps. For instance, in your ship, there's a giant map, which is where you chart your course, and once you pick up a quest, it puts in a real map in your inventory that you can both hold up and have to compare to your
turn it around and show it to somebody,
to other people, which is funny. I don't know how useful that is, but it's just like it's expressive, and I like that. You have instruments you can play for the hell of it while you're on the big wide open, and maybe I was thinking it'd be really fun to make up your own sea shanties, and if your mics can be broadcast, to somehow broadcast that to other players as you're
Yo ho,
Yeah.
yo ho.
A pirate's life for me. Yeah, it has a lot of potential. I'm just worried about how empty it felt.
Yeah.
And it's not that I want to be running into other players like constantly, because that could certainly ruin it.
Yeah.
But I just want there to be more life in that game.
Sure. And hopefully there is. I guess when's that? Is that still due this year?
I think so. It's been pushed back so many
a couple
times
times.
as they've, and this is not hardly the first beta they've done. So, don't know.
Tyler mentions in chat, so we know the beta isn't the full game for sure, but he also says additional trading companies, quests, progression items, enemies, and creatures will be added before launch, along with other stuff for sure. We'll have something up on that probably later today, maybe early tomorrow, with GIFs and stories and impressions. I should say that we did end up ramming that boat. We ended up respawning, ramming that boat with our boat, and getting this cool cannon battle.
I definitely rammed that boat,
And then fucking awesome.
And then you guys jumped onto their boat, or tried to. Chris just fell off our boat. He was just like back in the ocean somewhere. And then I tried to like pull the boat back around, but it's such a big ship that it takes a while to turn around. And I think by the time I came close to turning back around, you guys were dead. And
yeah, it was pretty funny.
And then the boat sank after that.
Yeah, our boat sank, and that was our cue to quit for
Yep.
the day. But I'm excited to hop back in and maybe see what else that beta has to offer. But Sea of Thieves closed beta. I think you get in by pre-ordering. I don't actually quite know, but
I'm not sure either.
yeah, it's for a couple days.
It does really make a good case for there being more pirate games. We always want more pirate games, but like, where is the new Sid Meier's Pirates? I think it's
long overdue.
It's about
in my
time.
opinion.
Did you play the original Pirates, Jared, or were you more like the?
I did. I actually played it on a Commodore 64.
Wow.
Damn.
It was brutal at times, because you could, if I remember right, you could go west really easily, but sailing back you had to tack against the wind, and sometimes you're just like, we just need to go up and down for like the next 20 minutes, which when you're like 12 years old seems like an eternity. But we had a great time. So when they made a remake of it, I was like, awesome.
Yeah, the remake was like 2002, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a long time.
It's time for more pirates.
Sid.
Give
Get to it.
Give us those pirates, Sid.
To it.
Sid's a good pirate name, actually.
It is a good pirate name. That's probably why he made that game.
Yeah.
Autobiographical. Jared, so you've got some interesting hardware stuff to talk about. We got these things. What are these called? SSDs? What does that stand for? I've never heard of
Solid
those.
state drives.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, you've heard of them. Everyone needs a solid state drive.
You do. You
And
do.
I don't even care how much they cost. Like, you should put one in your system anyway. I mean, like, you get the people that are like, I use a hard drive and it's fine, and I can store 2 terabytes on a $60 drive. Why would I want to go spend $150 for 1/4 the storage? And it's like, because everything else feels so much better. Like, Windows boots faster. Your games, if you have a big enough one to put games on, they do load a bit faster, and it just feels, it's like it's snappy. But the past year and a half has been a little rough because there was a flash memory shortage. Blame it on the smartphone people. Blame it on collusion between the industry manufacturers. Whatever.
Was that also
3D NAND.
post a tsunami? I remember a tsunami really affected RAM at one point.
Too. Yep, RAM and NAND manufacturing both kind of went through the same perfect storm of things, and so the supply was not enough to meet the demand, and prices went up, and like, you could get 16 gigabytes of DDR4 2400 for like $60, even $55 a year and a half ago. That same kit today is typically, like, right now it's like $175, which is crazy. It's almost tripled in price.
Wow, I didn't know it had gotten that bad.
Yeah, sheesh.
Yeah, it's horrible. So I mean, like, I've got, people used to say a year and a half, 2 years ago, they'd be like, oh yeah, well, just put 32 gig of RAM in your system because why not? Like, it's so cheap. And today you're like, oh, that 32 gig of RAM that I bought a couple of years ago is like worth $400.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's rough.
Which is kind of like the graphics card market too. So, you know,
Yeah.
well, like this is it. I wrote a thing saying it's a terrible time to buy a graphics card. It's been a really rough year for new hardware purchases new PC builds in general, just because of RAM prices going up and solid state drive prices going up and graphics card prices going up. And so, like, we watched our build guides go from like, hey, it's a $750 PC. Oh no, it's like a $850, $900. Do we hear $1,000 PC? You know,
anyone want a $1,000 PC?
Yeah, you know, and everyone keeps on like, well, when's it going to end? And that's the rough part. Is it's like, well, when is Bitcoin mining, well, cryptocurrency mining really going to slow down? When is NAND production going to speed up? When is DRAM production going to meet the demands? And like, everyone says they're working on it. I actually heard from a lot of manufacturers at CES that they expect the NAND shortage to be coming to an end now. And so, like, one of the companies even said, I can't tell you how much our new SSD is going to be priced at because we expect the price of the NAND market to fall in the next 2 or 3 months. And so we're still trying to figure out where we're going to price this. And so that's good news. Anyway, back to SSDs, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple new ones that you put up reviews on the site of this week, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, the first one was kind of interesting. Samsung is kind of the 800-pound gorilla of solid-state drives. Like, they make some of the best drives. They made the 850 and the 850 Evo and 850 Pro came out 3.5 years ago, and they were the fastest SATA drives on the market. And flash forward to now, and they're like still the best SATA drives on the market for most use cases. Like, there's a few drives that are faster than the 850 Evo. They're usually not as cheap as the 850 Evo. And so it's been this thing where, like, man, like, will anyone ever dethrone Samsung's 850 Evo from the SATA drive recommendation? So kind of out of the blue, I wasn't really expecting this. Samsung's like, hey, we're launching an 860 Pro and an 860 Evo. And I'm like, oh, wow, that'll be interesting. What's funny is I test the drive and it's faster. Like, so they didn't send an 860 Pro yet. I'm hoping to get one soon. But the 860 Evo was faster in some cases than the 850 Evo and slower in others. And so you're like, oh, gosh, 3 years later and we don't have something that's universally better. So that's kind of, you know, that shows how good they were when they were made and how hard it is to, you know, we're smacking into the ceiling of the SATA bottleneck. So PCI Express and NVMe is the way to go faster, and Samsung has those drives as well. But the 860 Evo kind of felt like it's a good drive. There's no real problems with it, but it wasn't substantially better or even different from the 850 Evo. So then at the same time, I also got the Intel 760p, which is their NVMe drive, M.2 drive.
Yeah, and so that's the much smaller form factor that I'd say most motherboards at this point have a M2 slot, right?
Like any new motherboard should have an M.2 slot. Most of the newer models, like especially the Z370 and such, are going to have 2, maybe even 3 M.2 slots. So, you know, that, and I like them because, like, cable clutter makes your build look a little ugly. And there was always this problem, like, no matter how much you tried, you always had to, like, what are we going to do with this cable to make it look nice with the lighting? And it's like, you stick an M.2 drive on your motherboard and the cable problem is solved.
Yeah, especially on the motherboards that have, some of them will have like a little hinge or something that flips up. And so then you're kind of even covering the M2 drive, which maybe isn't great from a heat perspective in some cases, but it does let them accent it in whatever color.
Yeah, MSI does that, and they're like, yeah, it's a heat spreader to help your SSD run better and keep cooler. And then some sites started doing testing. They're like, actually, the drive heats up when you have that little flap down. But anyway, so Intel made the 600p a year and a half ago, and it was a budget M.2 drive. At one point, it was as cheap as SATA drives, and then it kind of became a little more expensive, like everything else did. But performance was a little hard because it was faster than SATA on sequential stuff, but sometimes slower than like an 850 Pro if you did a lot of random writes or just write heavy workloads. And part of that was because they used this Silicon Motion SM2260 controller that, if I remember right, has no DRAM on it, so there's no like RAM cache on the drive, and that slowed things down. Well, so now they're making this new model that has a DRAM cache, and they've improved the controller and all this stuff, and the price is supposed to be the same as the outgoing 600p, and performance was basically double or more in all of the tests that I ran. So
dang,
you know, yeah, and so you're like, hey, $200 versus, like, yes, you can buy a $140 SATA drive, but if you want to get rid of the cables.
Did we lose Jared?
Oh,
We got a frozen face on the screen.
he was just getting getting to the good part. Oh man.
Well, you know, that's what you get for sometimes running a live stream.
Jared's Comcast cap kicked in.
Yeah, all those copies of Forza. We'll see if we can get Jared back. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to turn that off.
Rest in peace, Jared.
We'll have an empty seat here, and hopefully an answer from him pretty soon about that.
I think it's exciting to finally see some new kind of significant SSDs. Is Jared calling you right now?
Oh, yep.
I think he is.
Let me get him on this.
Because, like he said, we've kind of been sitting with the 850 Evo for a couple years now, and there have been newer SSDs that have come out, but they haven't really offered anything significant that is give you a reason to upgrade, kind of push the technology forward. So it's cool to see some new stuff coming out.
Always good. Always good. All right, let's see if we can get Jared back.
We can just talk about pirates more.
Like me some pirates. It's not working.
Come on, Skype.
Call. Yeah, I don't know. We will wait for his call. Yeah, it's dying on us. So that might be a premature goodbye from Jared unless we can get him working again. I'll get Slack open and just make sure he's okay. Oh, he's calling. Edge of your seats, I'm sure.
Come on, Jared.
I see you. Can you hear me?
Hey, yes.
Hey.
We got you back. What happened, Jared?
I have no idea.
Did you turn your computer off?
No, I actually heard you guys saying, did we lose Jared? Like, he just froze there. I'm like, no, I'm still here. And then all of a sudden Skype, like, gives me the little circle of death.
You know how Skype likes to do.
Skype's gone downhill since Microsoft bought them. That or else they just got more complex.
Yeah.
Let me see.
There we go.
Bringing him back. Boing.
There's Jared.
There's Jared.
So I have a question about the Intel drive. It sounds great. I'm curious where you see the benefits of that speed, like how much you're going to really perceive that in real world use. You know, if I have Windows 10 installed on 860 Evo versus the Intel drive, am I going to notice a difference?
Not usually. If you ever have a big Steam game that's installed on the drive and you're like, man, something's wrong with this game and I want to verify the files, that will go faster.
Random read speed is important for your OS, right? Versus sequential?
Yeah, it's modestly important. Like what you end up with is pseudo-random accesses. So like in a server where you have potentially hundreds of users hitting the server, the hard drive or the storage can actually end up in a true random access pattern, even though everyone is more or less requesting sequential data. But on personal computers where it's only one user, like you'll get things where it's like, hey, you know, Chrome needs to load some stuff, and so it's going to grab a big chunk of files, and meanwhile it's also grabbing a chunk of files for Skype or whatever, and especially with solid state drives where they can transfer 500 megabytes per second, it's like, well, usually the transfers happen fast enough that one shot is all you need, and then it's just waiting on the processor to crunch through the data that it just grabbed. So
gotcha.
So yeah, there's a huge difference going from a hard drive to solid state drive. I mean, like even a cheap solid state drive, like the worst SATA drive I've tested in the last 3 years, is still going to feel faster than a hard drive.
For sure, yeah.
And then going from like that level of SATA drive to an M.2 drive, it's like, oh, well, you'll notice the speed difference on certain things. Oh, like, hey, I copied this file from one drive to another, and if you have 2 fast drives, you'll definitely see that. But if it's like copying from a hard drive to a solid state drive, then you're usually bottlenecked by the hard drive regardless. So
I think for most people, if you aren't bothered by the aesthetics, if you don't want that super clean look, you're probably better off going for a more affordable SATA SSD in the capacity you want and save some change versus NVMe at this point. It's going to be a little better, but probably not to the extent that it's worth the extra $100 or whatever, especially if you're on a budget.
I think it's going to come down a lot this year. Like right now, the 760p is priced at $200 for 512 gigabytes. So it's like $60 more than an 850 Evo 500 gigabyte. But I mean, like the 600p actually hit a low of $135 before prices started going up. And it was literally like $5 to $10 more than your budget SATA drive. So if we get down to that point, then it becomes a no-brainer where it's like, oh yeah, I'd totally spend, the cost of one meal out to eat in order to upgrade to NVMe.
For sure, yeah. Is there any longevity difference, you think?
The newer drives, you would think that they would invariably be better, but they all are starting, well, not all, but a lot of them have moved from MLC, which was 2 bits per cell, to TLC, which is 3 bits per cell, and TLC has a little bit less longevity. The reality, though, is, I mean, like the Intel drive is rated at 72 terabytes of writes per 128 gig of capacity. So the 512 gigabyte model is like 88, or I can't do math in my head that fast, 348 gigabytes of writes, something like that. Not gigabytes, 350-ish terabytes of writing. And when you start looking at that number, you're like, okay, well, how much is that per day? And over 5 years, it ends up being like you're writing 60 or 50 or whatever gigabytes per day. And
that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. You would have to be like constantly uninstalling and reinstalling games, or constantly moving video files on and off of it, or something like that.
Yeah. So if you're looking at a server where you're doing a lot more storage intensive workloads, you can wear out solid state drives in a matter of 6 months, like the consumer models. But for home PCs, I actually looked at a solid state drive that I'd been using for like 2 years at one point, and it said my average was about 5 gigabytes of writes per day.
So even at 10 times that, it still would have been good for years. Yeah.
Like by the time your solid state drive is like, oh man, I'm running out of write cycles, it's like, well, why don't you go and upgrade to a new drive for $70? That will be twice or 4 times as large. So that was actually cool about Samsung, though. They did. I should have brought it out so I could show it to you. They sent their 4 terabyte solid state drive over.
Man, you are stacked for SSD storage, aren't you?
Yeah, like 4 terabytes. It's $1,400 for that SSD. But then you look at what Tuan's 120 terabyte NAS.
Yeah, we had a fun article on the site last week where he wrote about his 120 terabyte NAS being faster than an SSD, I think, because it was so much storage in RAID.
It had faster sequential throughput. And the thing is like his NAS was like, it's a $3,500 PC basically that you're stuffing a bunch of drives into. So, it ought to be fast. Someone's like, so how much money does that faster than an SSD storage cost you, Tuan? He's got a storage addiction, a problem of some form.
He sure does. He's a pack rat.
He sure is.
I know he's going to be like, you think I can get Samsung to send me 10 of those 4 terabyte drives for a NAS?
I'm like, no, probably not.
Over the top. Over the top.
All right, so I think that does it for SSDs.
Well, Jared, thank you for saying things I sort of understood, I think, sometimes.
You can wake up now, James.
I think... No, I was mostly on making sure nothing was breaking again.
No, I'm saying the audience can wake up too. They're like, oh, are we back? Are we done with the hardware?
I'd rather have a hardware lesson than ever talk about CCG ever again. So you're welcome back anytime.
I think it was really valuable to hear that from what you know, looks like we're moving towards those RAM shortages. You know, if not disappearing, then at least minimizing sort of that cost increase that we've seen over the past year and bring us back down to more palpable or palatable, I should say, levels. You know?
Yeah, hopefully.
It stings having to pay $150 for RAM. Yeah,
it's a pretty rough time to even try to get into PC gaming. Even no matter what you're trying to build. And
Jared is working on trying to get some similar info to do with graphics cards and the cryptocurrency storage. Don't know if we'll be able to find that stuff out, but we're trying. We're trying to find out when we can expect those prices to level out, or when we can start seeing more production, if that's even possible at this point. We don't know, but we're looking.
It's like a really complex thing because cryptocurrencies are so volatile that both NVIDIA and AMD, they're going to be afraid of making too many GPUs that end up glutting the market. Their partners are trying to forecast, 3-4 months out, how many GTX 1070 cards do we think we're going to sell in December? And, by the time December rolls around, they're looking at April. And so, even though they're selling every card on the shelf and then some right now, there's this concern like, well, by the time we ramp up production and April rolls around, this whole market may have disappeared and we just end up with a bunch of surplus cards right before new hardware is slated to arrive or whatever. So it's a big messy thing trying to project all of this, and cryptocurrencies are so volatile that it just makes it even worse.
Well, I'm morbidly curious to see how it all pans out at the very least.
This is why you pay like numbers guys big money at your company to do these projections, right? I feel like they should have been on top of this thing.
I feel like NVIDIA should have been like, hey, you know how we've got all of those grid centers with GPUs in them? We should just mine cryptocurrencies when no one's playing games.
Maybe they are. Who knows?
They could be.
Get a little like Office Space situation. Some guy's like, who's gonna know if I use this one server over in the corner here for a little mining on the side, and then he's accidentally earned $1 million.
It's got to be happening somewhere.
Company time.
It's got to be happening somewhere. Cool. Well, thanks again, Jared. I think I'm gonna start bothering you to just record a video explaining one new hardware term a week. Just play on the show, and you can teach everyone how to become an expert.
It'll be like a Sesame Street bit. You'll just define a word for us.
A is for some very obtuse hardware term.
Today's video is brought to you by the language C and the letter F, and the number F.
And the snake python.
I'm into it. But let's move on to listener questions. We have quite the pile of them. So again, doubt we're going to get through them all. But I appreciate it, PC Gamer Discord. I really do. And if you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, we have something called the PC Gamer Club.
What?
Yeah, it's a club. It's a nice Havana out on the ocean, just kind of looking over the coast. No, it's not. It's a virtual club. You can check out everything you need to know at club.pcgamer.com. Just a couple footnotes. It's you get an ad-free experience on the site. You get free game each month is always good. You get access to whatever beta keys or extra keys we have. We'll throw at our club members first.
You can wear a smoking jacket in the club if you want.
Smoking jackets are allowed. Smoking is not allowed. The jackets are. what else am I missing here? Oh yeah, you get a digital subscription to the magazine, which is it's just getting better all the time, if you ask me. And you get some nice Tub Geralt glossy JPEGs for your desktop, among other things. We're always trying to add new stuff all the time. I think recently we just got a deal where we God, I'm forgetting the name. Elite. There's
Elite and Rising Storm.
They're a PC Gamer Club exclusive items now. So if you join the club, you get those. Some pretty cool, like a coconut monkey tattoo and
Make Mods Not War.
Mods Not War
on your
helmet.
Vietnam helmet.
It's pretty rad. So it's again club.pcgamer.com. Yeah, and you also get an invite to our Discord, obviously, which is a really, really nice place to be. I hang out there a lot. So I take questions from there. I also take questions from Twitch chat if we have time. So tag me at PC Gamer with a question if you have one. Anything about PC gaming will do. And we'll get to it again if we have time. We're kind of running out here. But let's start off with Nick Manley, 1987. He asks, what is James's take on the realism of the portrayal of his homeland in Far Cry 5 from any early builds? So I've played Far Cry 5.
I feel like you've talked about this.
Yeah, I've talked about it multiple times, so I'll keep it brief. But I played Far Cry 5 like several times at E3 and a couple months ago at a newer demo here. So you can go to pcgamer.com/far-cry-5 if you want to find those pieces for more information. But I think it's a fictional county in western Montana, and I think it captures the look of the mountains, like this bluish tinge, purplish tinge they all have. Yeah, it looks like Montana at a glance, and I think there are some landmarks there that are straight up from Montana, like I've mentioned, this cow at this random junction off the interstate is there. There's the Testicle Festival, so I think it's a very broad stroke portrayal, and I'm curious to see like what other tiny nuggets and references I can pull up.
How realistic did it feel to discover yourself in the game as a cow fucker?
No comment. No comment. What happens on the farm stays on the farm, Wes. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. Thanks for the question, Nick. I look forward to digging into that game in March 27th, so a month or two. Mad Brood asks, location plays an important part in how a game is experienced, but sometimes it takes a backseat to overall, quote, shininess, gunplay, and other mechanical systems and factors. So if you could make a game, any game, where would you set it and why? Where's your dream setting? And I'm assuming any fantasy or sci-fi setting counts as well. So if you want to do that, that's cool. That's cool. Any thoughts?
I want Jared to go first while I'm thinking.
Oh, so like I used to dream of being a game designer. Like, didn't we all? I still would love to make like a cool cyberpunk game. So I'm totally looking forward to the CD Projekt Red cyberpunk game. But like I love reading cyberpunk books, Neuromancer, the whole Sprawl trilogy. I'm reading right now, if you haven't read Altered Carbon, that's a pretty sweet novel.
Really good book.
Show is coming out on Netflix in like a week or two as well. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm reading the second book in the series now, The Broken Angels, and then there's, I guess, Woken Furies is the third one. So
I hear they go downhill after the first one.
Oh yeah, the second one so far hasn't been quite as I don't know. It's all right. So I'm enjoying them though. So
cool.
So yeah, I'd totally do a cyberpunk story, get to hack the Matrix and all that stuff, and hopefully not be as lame as Keanu or whatever.
I'm having trouble nailing down a particular setting, but I love what the at least in the intentions of the Assassin's Creed series in picking moments throughout history that you've never seen a game set in before, or at least not a game with that degree of fidelity, and building something out of that. I think, unfortunately, quite a few of those games suffered from the Assassin's Creed formula being applied to a setting, or, like Assassin's Creed Unity, for example, had this was it Unity? Yeah, had the incredible depiction of Paris, but was the technology just wasn't quite there for that game to run well. It was really buggy. the campaign wasn't great. Assassin's Creed 3, I think, suffered from kind of a similar issue where really cool idea to do the American Revolution as the setting, but it was just kind of too bloated, had all these issues, right? So there are, I think, a ton of time periods that we don't think of as being, we gravitate towards fantasy, we gravitate towards sci-fi, towards present day or future for a lot of games, but there are so many, I think, cool historical settings that you can go to that we just don't think of for games. And I hope more games other than the Assassin's Creed series eventually kind of bring that degree of fidelity and scope to the Spanish-American War or just the Gold Rush or name a really cool time period and go for it.
Games have so far just stuck to the big wars, and Assassin's Creed is probably the one that's venturing out into more specific areas.
The Mongol conquest of the world, but done in something other than I love the exactly. Like I love the Total War series, but that is not the kind of game where you're getting this like immersive, on the ground level experience of that time period. So
my answer kind of tails off that is I think there's a lot of American history specifically that I would like to see explored that is not specifically through the lens of like a Western necessarily. I don't know. I like to think about the Gold Rush and like frontier life portrayed in a game that is not a survival game or some kind of weird online MMO. I think specifically about the
it's hard out there on the plains.
I don't know. I think there's something in an RPG or who fuck knows. I don't design games, but I just want to see those spaces and times rendered. Like you said, I want to be on the ground in the way that Assassin's Creed maybe like melodramatically depicts them, but I would just love to see that. And
you need a little melodrama. It's just boring.
You need like a bunch of dopey NPCs and
Lewis and Clark,
big bad guys, and Lewis and Clark. There you go. I want to go on the Lewis and Clark expedition in a, I don't know how that would work, but I want to do that. Make boats and row them uphill. Cool. Thanks for the question. Good answers, guys. Apollo Dingo, notorious troll of the PC Gamer Discord, asks, with Eidos Montreal making Disney cartoon games, Arcane being incapable of making big profits off the most quality streak of releases in history, IO being dropped from Squaresoft, and Kojima out there making who knows what, are immersive sims headed in for a dark age? And I think this is a question a lot of us have been asking.
I think we had a fairly extended conversation about this at one point last year, towards the end of last year. They're definitely gonna change. I think there's no question that they have not been smash hits. So you can't keep making games on big budgets in that style when they don't, make a lot of money. So
yeah, I think my prediction is that you see in the next 3 to 4 years, you'll see more games that are immersive simmy in the mold of obviously Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that they're these big kind of open worlds that are more expressive and systemic than they are, like we've said many times in the past shows, like item checklists or icon checklists. That is where you'll see, I think, a lot of that kind of those developers heading towards, or at least like you'll see bigger like games expressing immersive sim lessons.
Yeah, I think that DNA is going to find its way into more stuff than it has been.
I don't think like the things that immersive sims do are going anywhere. I think that the System Shock style, Prey, BioShock, all of these are going to change in scope. At least you might still have these more traditional immersive sims, but they will be these crowd-funded System Shock 3s, rather than...
The interesting thing is, like, why is The Witcher 3 so successful? Like, that was basically kind of an immersive sim, right? Like,
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think it has any of those mechanics in it.
it's deep on story.
Yeah, and the world is like rendered in great detail.
It is certainly an exception for a massive single-player game doing as well as it has. There
definitely.
have not been too many of those lately.
Hard to exactly pinpoint what that is, but it sets itself apart. Yeah, I don't know. I think immersive sims will change in scope and size and the way they manifest on the higher end of the development scale. But I don't think, again, like the things they do are going anywhere, which keeps my hopes alive at least, because I love the genre quite a bit. Still just mostly looking forward to the Breath of the Wild inspired dump of games.
That'll be a good couple of years.
Hopefully. Moving on here. Excuse me. Buttface Jones asks, have you ever been so lost in a game that you just stopped playing it? I think I've done that. He's frustrated with one. I don't know if lost is exactly it.
Probably, yeah. I'm trying to remember a specific instance.
I think the first time I ever played Dark Souls, I quit it because of maybe not being lost, but just not having the same, arrow on the ground or mini map aid telling me where to go. It's intuition based and sort of, go where you don't get your ass totally beat.
All of the Elder Scrolls games have been like this for me. Like, I'll play them a lot, but like Oblivion, I think I'd put 200 hours into the game just running around doing side quests, exploring, doing all sorts of stuff. And I realized I haven't done jack squat with the main storyline. And I kind of just fizzled out and I stopped playing it for a long time. And I didn't go back and finish Oblivion until like months before Skyrim came out. I'm like, oh wait, I should go back and finish that game before the new one comes out. So I did finish Oblivion eventually, but I still haven't even come close to finishing Skyrim.
I didn't play too much of The Witness before I had like open puzzles in 7 places that I didn't know how to do, and I was just like, I'm gonna spend my time in other ways.
Yeah, that's fair. Nothing really screams to me, but I don't know. If you get frustrated with the game, just put it down. Don't worry about it. You guys, there's plenty of other stuff to play. Janrin, if you had a relative that has never played any games, with the exception of mobile games, what would be the first game that you would, quote, force them to play? I'm assuming PC games. Like if you were going to get a non-initiative into PC gaming, how would you do that? What would be the portal? The smooth landing.
Portal.
Hey,
I mean that's a great one.
Yeah, I think so. It's once you can get someone to wrap their head around like what's going on. I've definitely played Portal with a few friends and family members, and the hardest barrier of entry was obviously first person controls. Second was understanding like the relationship that the portals create in space.
That feels pretty straightforward.
You would think so.
They're portals.
You would think so, but to someone who doesn't play games, like I think first understanding you can like how a first person character works, and then understanding like how they carry momentum. There might be like there's some building blocks that I think delay the understanding of the portals. But Portal's a good one. It's a good call. I would say something a bit slower. I don't know. I would give them some like maybe some 2D platformer
Peggle
style. Yo, my whole family loves Peggle. My family is in love.
I guess that is a mobile game.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on iPhone and stuff, but I first played it on Xbox.
Yeah. I think the route into most people's hearts, or at least in my family, would be through puzzle games. Like, I think I would work my way up to, oh God, what's the bird puzzle game? The crazy hard bird.
Snakebird?
Snakebird. Something like that, where it's like you can understand it, you can control it without like having to teach yourself how to ride a bike, so to speak, and it progresses, in an easy way. But I don't know.
I might go for an adventure game of some kind.
Yeah.
Hard to say. Like some of the classic LucasArts games, I think require a certain kind of game mindset to solve the puzzles. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe Machinarium. That would probably be
like a fiddly, straightforward.
You still have to figure out some puzzles that are tough, but
They're pretty self-contained.
Yeah, more self-contained, really beautiful. You don't have to kind of follow a story or characters as much because it's all kind of just through imagery instead of dialogue. So
I would say any of Amanita Designs games like Samorost and Machinarium and all those are pretty good calls.
yeah.
Just point and click. Yeah. Jared, did you have one? I listened. You said Portal. That's right.
Yeah.
Portal was a good shout.
That was a good call. It was a good call. There's an Overwatch question. Do any of us know anything about Overwatch?
I mean, I've shot a guy or two in my day.
Do you know anything about the new map?
It's Blizzard World, right?
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Okay.
It's like Disney. It's like Disneyland, but Blizzard.
JBJ Blaze asks us like what our favorite exhibits are in it, and we don't have Bo here. Maybe I'll save that one for the next Bo episode.
The Tracer one.
Yeah, I like the. I saw a picture of a shark in the water, so I like that.
The shark.
There's a shark.
Great shark.
It's a really good shark. Good job, Blizzard. You nail it every time. Musical Joe, this one's for you, and we kind of touched on this, but specifically, how are NVIDIA and AMD graphics card manufacturers going to make graphics card prices drop and focus on gamers instead of miners? What can they do?
I'll tell you what's not going to work.
What's that?
Making a nice publicity statement where you say, we really want all the retailers to sell to gamers first.
Yeah, probably not.
like it's like, thanks, that's great. What are you going to do if Amazon lets some dude buy 20 cards for mining? Nothing, because we still get paid. You know.
We're gonna ask them if they have any anything up their sleeve, any ideas to help this situation, but so far it seems like just tell retailers, please sell to gamers, and that's not going to happen, really.
No. I think the call, it's on retailers to do anything about it, but retailers want to make money, so it's.
If you ran a retail store, James, and you had shelves full of graphics cards, and you bumped the price up 25%, and you had like some guy come in and say, "Hey, I will buy all of your graphics cards at that price." Are you going to be like, I really don't want to do that for you because I might have some other people come by? You'd be like, well, I would love to save some for the other people, but you know what? I can take this big fat profit right now and then work on getting more cards.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It's true. Capitalism. I say that all the time.
For now, that's how it's going.
Yep.
They should just mine the hell out of Bitcoin or Ethereum or all of them at once with all their supercomputers and sell them all and crash the market.
Alternative solution. We form a resistance, overthrow the government, instate some form of socialism. In this form of socialism, so long as you are contributing to society and under whatever kind of, labor.
You've really thought this out, haven't you?
If you do the labor,
allocated graphics card,
then you will get your monthly allocated graphics card delivered directly to.
I don't see how this could fail.
You don't think so?
I don't like this plan because it sounds like I might not end up with enough graphics cards for my testing.
Oh shit, that's right. Well, never mind.
You just gotta do 10 times more work than other people, Jared.
Oh, okay.
Earn your share.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for questions for the week and our show overall. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next week, every week, 1 p.m. Pacific time, Wednesdays on twitch.tv/PCGamer. You can catch the VOD. That's what the kids are calling them these days, VODs, video on demand, on youtube.com/PCGamer. Usually the evening the show airs. You can also go to pcgamer.com/tag/podcast to see all of our previous podcasts, catch the show's post, and find the iTunes subscription link or the MP3 if you want to download it directly. The RSS feed is there as well. You can comment on the show and tell me I'm just doing a great job, or a bad one. You can do that too. Or just give me some constructive feedback. I can take it. Until next week, just remember they can raise the prices on our graphics cards, but they can't raise the prices on our love for gaming on the computer.
It's another
etch it in stone.
Another week of 2018. You've left us with James.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.